He was running.
Your haircut is fast.
Yeah, right. I mean, an hour at most for this meeting?
To the April 2nd Gorham Town Council regular meeting. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chairperson Phillips.
Present.
Council Sims. Present. Council Wilder Cross.
Present.
Council Pratt.
Present.
Council Gagnon.
Present.
Council Lavoy.
Present.
Council Siegel.
Present.
Now we'll do the acceptance of the March 12th regular town council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Pratt, second by Councilor Wilder Cross. Is there any discussion, changes, or anything? All right, seeing none. All those in favor? 7 yeas. Now we'll move on to open public communications. This is a time where the public can come up to speak about items that are not on the agenda tonight. You can state your name and address for the record, and there'll be 3 minutes for each speaker. And just as a reminder, there's no cheering, clapping, or booing. So if anyone would like to talk about something not on the agenda, please come up to the podium.
My name is Michael Knight. I'm from Smiling Hill Farm. I live at 776 County Road, Westbrook, Maine. I'm here to clear up a few things. One is there have been a lot of rumors that Smiling Hill Farm isn't in Gorham. Well, we pay taxes to Gorham, and when you cross Saco Street, the divider, I call it, for the Maine Turnpike Authority, hits Smiling Hill Farm. So that's why I'm here. Also, there's been some rumors about a possible land on the other side of the farm that we currently bought was originally Knight property. And through marriages, it went out of the family, it came available, and we bought it. So yes, we've only owned it for 5 years, but it is part of the original Knight property. I came across something that guidelines that was supposed to be, I guess, Gorham, Westbrook, Scarborough, you all signed it. But it said, to the extent design the Gorham connected to avoid, minimize, mitigate impacts of cultural, natural resources, including wetlands, Red Brook, watershed, farmlands, historic areas and structures, wildlife corridors, and habitat. Now, if these are the guidelines that you folks signed on for the Maine Turnpike to follow, boy, they didn't follow it at all. And I've got copies of this if you'd like. I'm sure you have your own somewhere. But I just wanted the public to know that if Red Brook starts on Smiling Hill Farm, and it has trout in it, if you put a bypass through there, you might as well forget the trout. They're gonna die. And historic places, the farm has been there since 1720. Before United States was the United States. That's how long. Before George Washington was even born. And now it's a crying shame that the government wants to come and steal this land from us. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll pass them down. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public want to speak? Go right up to the podium. And just give us your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Greg Labonte. I live at 208 Narragansett here in Gorham. I'm a teaching professor of ecology and biology at the University of New England. And so I'm speaking today in opposition of this new turnpike for several reasons. I'd like to lay out 2 examples of why. The MTA will have to cut roughly 200 acres of mature forest. This is an extremely sort of conservative estimate. So 200 acres. Those 200 acres sequester around 8 million pounds of CO2 yearly in our towns, locally, right in our towns. That equates to roughly 2 million hours of idling car time emissions. The MTA claims that the Turnpike will have a positive impact on CO2 emissions following the climate guidelines for Maine. But I have yet to see their foresting sequestering deductions. I have not seen that, and I have dug quite deep. So this raises red flags for me. It sort of leaves me believing, what else are they leaving unturned? What else are they hiding from us? What else are they not relieving to the public? I'm also the founder and CEO of a fly fishing business based in Gorham, and I say this because my concerns transcend the ecology field, which is my profession, but they also enter the fiscal realm as well. I'm sure that you guys may know, but HNTB, who is doing the consulting work for MTA, have 2 contracts that are up in 2024. This is estimating roughly about 20 million, a little bit under $20 million for the company HNTB. So it makes me think, if the Gorham Connector is approved, who is truly benefiting? And is HNTB, do they actually have Gorham citizens' interest at hand? Is their best interest at hand? Or are they simply spinning a web to extend their contracts? And so these are 2 of many. It's not the totality of my concerns, but these are 2 that are extremely pressing to me as a Gorham citizen. These are unanswered questions, and I believe if it was approved with these questions unanswered, it would be irresponsible on my part, if I didn't speak up as a citizen, on the council's part of approving something for the Gorham citizens that is still in such question and such doubt in my mind, from my professional opinion. And so I just wanted to say that I think for the daughters and my son and the sons of Gorham that we definitely can do better, and we should be asking of better before approving of this. So I want to be respectful of other people's times, and thank you for hearing me.
Anyone else like to speak? Please come to the podium.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm built for comfort, not for speed. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to speak. My name is Sadie Donnell. I live at 71 Narragansett Street. I would again like to encourage opposition for the Connector Highway. I don't feel that highways create wealth. They might for the few people who are involved in building it or making studies to try to make it happen. And those are short-term wealth. But real wealth is in giving people opportunity. Real wealth is providing equitable transportation to our community and surrounding communities. I don't feel that this highway would provide equitable transportation. It only provides transportation for those who are driving cars, and driving does not build prosperity. As real estate prices rise and rise, people are having to move further and further away from commercial and industrial centers, and they're having to commute further and further. And if you don't want to drive, you can't drive, that makes it very hard for you to exist and participate in your community. I don't feel like this highway would add any value to our community. What would add value, again, is equitable transportation. We have not tried those options on this corridor, and I feel we would really be doing a disservice to our community if we didn't try every option first before we make these extremely significant and highly costly changes to our landscape. I would encourage anyone to try other options such as public transit. Buses, especially electric buses, are flexible. They can run frequently. They can have technology that would cause traffic lights to yield to them as they approach, increasing efficiency and reducing carbon emission. We can change these routes at will with short notice as we need them to be changed, as we evaluate how they're working or not working. We can increase, decrease, whatnot. We can't do that with a highway. Once it's there, it's there. I think that trying these other solutions would provide much higher value to our community. I know it would for me, living in Gorham, without bus service, as a person with blindness who can't drive. It was very stressful for me to try to get basically anywhere until the bus service came, and I was able to access Metro bus service as well as paratransit, which is tied to public bus service and opens huge opportunities for those of us with disabilities to be able to work and participate. So please, again, please consider the other options before jumping to this extreme measure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Go right ahead, up to the podium.
How you doing? My name is Jason Plummer. I live 26 Running Hill Road. I was approached by Peter Mills, and it's just been not a lot of communication, and they're the last thing I was told is they want to take approximately half my land. It would be 8 acres, and the bypass would be about 200 yards behind my home. And I live there for a reason. I'm out in the woods, and it's nice. There's all the wildlife and everything, and if what they're proposing is coming through where I am, and it would go right over to Smiling Hill Farm. I know those woods well, and I have pictures of everything from deer to moose to bobcats to fisher. Anything you want to see, I have a picture of it, and it just seems a real shame to have it gone, because it'll never be the same. That once that's through there, I can't imagine it being the same. And another concern was, this evening I was on 114 right at Nonsuch River Golf Course. I went by there at 5:10. I passed Cumberland Farms up here on 22 at 5:22. That was 12 minutes. Then traffic was gone. So then tonight, when I had to come here, it was 10:07, and I'm leaving, from Running Hill, and there was no traffic. There was 9 minutes to here. So I think the traffic study that, they were looking at is from 2012. There's a lot of people that aren't on the road anymore. The traffic was, heavier before the COVID, but after COVID, it seems like it is definitely slowed down. Where they have, is it Blue Cross, Blue Shield, on the end of Running Hill Road, the parking lot's empty. No one goes to work there anymore. And it seems like there's a lot of things that could happen that would relieve this without going as far as what they want to do. And I guess that's just what I want to say is once it's gone, it's gone. And, even on a financial, they don't want to pay me a lot of money. And what's my house worth after, I have 4 lanes going through my backyard. Right now, my house, I have almost 17 acres, would be somewhere 1.5. What happens after that? I certainly don't want to live there. So I just think that even on 22, if you had just widening on both ways, going in the morning on on 22, when you're going to turn by O'Donnell's, you widen that, and you widened it going out. because, you know, as soon as you turn at Cumberland Farms, if you had a segregated lane that was just going that way, I think it would relieve a lot of problem, you know, and not impact so many people and so much money. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Sam Purinton. I live at 184 South Street, and I also want to voice my opposition to the road construction project. It's as neutral as term as I could think of. And I oppose it because, among many things, it would encourage more auto-oriented growth. And if memory serves me, we had a very difficult time finding money for the school budget last year. And I think if we continue down this road of auto-oriented development, we're going to have those budget problems more and more frequently, that we have this expanding need for the services of our residents, such as education, but we don't have the corresponding increase in revenue, which is because, again, auto-oriented development does not deliver on those promises. So I think, like the speakers before me have said, we need to explore other options for relieving the traffic issue. And again, I don't think spending this much money on a highway into Gorham is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Come up.
Hello, thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name's David Mahoney. I live on Gateway Commons, and I ran into traffic coming to this meeting, but I'm totally opposed to the bypass because it's just going to push the problem down the road, create pollution, and as the last speaker mentioned, I think we're already struggling in Gorham balancing the budget, especially the school budget, and it was a painful process to watch last year when we were trying to come to a budget people could agree on. We have a lot of nice land to the west that could be developed by developers who would put in 70 to 100 units and just add to the traffic problems that we already have. And yes, coming into Gorham from the east, you could get past it on this bypass, but then you're just creating a problem to the west, which is just kind of pushing the problem down the road because, yes, we've solved the Gorham problem, but we've created a West Gorham problem, Standish problem, and it's kind of an antiquated solution to keep building roads. I'm also a member of the Bicycle Coalition of Maine, and I love riding the roads, and I love the country roads to the west of here. And I like, well, I don't really like commuting into Portland, a lot of traffic, but I do it because I'd rather be more responsible about transportation than just hopping in my car and going. And I think there was a feasibility study about rapid transit and expanding that. And that seems to be, I don't know where that stands, but the bypass really doesn't solve any problems, I don't think. It just creates other problems. The environmental issues has been mentioned. Smiling Hill Farm is affected. But I think we're all affected. It's just not a 22nd century solution when we're looking at environmental issues and global warming or global climate change, whatever you want to call it. We're just encouraging more auto use instead of looking for alternatives to handle expanding population. And I think I've covered everything I want to say. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak? Yep, you can go ahead after her.
Hi, my name is Lauren Maylander, and I just moved to Gorham about 1.5 years ago. I live at 23 Crockett, and I actually work in Portland, and so I understand the pain of commuting. However, I used to live in Portland, and I got to bike everywhere and use the bus system, and I moved out to Gorham. I just had a kiddo, and I love living out here because of everything people have talked about. The beautiful trails, where we live around a lot of working farms, and woods, and I feel really privileged to get to live in the country now and also have a job in Portland. However, I would rather sit in traffic for another 5 minutes or so, like was said, at the peak times of traffic. And a lot of those times, those roads are going to sit empty. And I have a 1-year-old, and I think she's going to ask me at the 11th hour of climate change, when our world was maybe the decisions we're making might push us to the brink of extinction, and definitely other species that don't get to speak at this meeting. What did you do, Mom? And I'm going to have to answer to that. And there's a lot of us sitting here that might not be there when she's here to face the repercussions of focusing on car transportation. And yes, I drove a car to get here, but I would love to have another option. And GPCOG is doing a study, and I want to just ask you, please, could we just slow this down and say, what's a smarter way to grow this community? And there are big problems facing our communities. We don't have enough housing. We have traffic, and that's terrible, and I don't like sitting in smog-filled air. But we need to grow smart, and there's going to be more people coming to Southern Maine, and that's good economically. It's good for the quality of life. We're able to afford other people. I'm grateful that I could afford a home and move to this community. But the integrity of who we are is going to be lost if we don't grow smart. We know what 295 did to Portland. It cut off a whole Libbytown neighborhood. It created a lot of smog, and it's not a smart way to grow. Countless cities have learned from these mistakes and said we should not have put in that highway. And it's not worth the 5 minutes or the whatever. I don't think it's 10 minutes that it's going to save, which the study says it's not worth all that money. Even if taxpayer money is not going directly, my dollars are not going to that. It's coming from somewhere, and I want us to think about these other studies and how we can start investing in public transportation so this community can grow in a smart way for future generations and for all of us. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Yep, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Stonis Moody Roberts. I'm at 38 County Road in North Scarborough. And I'm going to repeat a little bit of what my neighbor Jason Plummer said, because I have a similar situation. My house is across the street from Smiling Hill, and it's also in the path of this turnpike. And I also am facing losing 8 acres of my land and having a turnpike go right through my backyard. First, what I want to say is this isn't continuing the Gorham bypass, what we have here in Gorham. This is a full-on turnpike. This is a 4-lane turnpike with an on-ramp, off-ramp system at each junction, at the 114 junction, at our junction on County Road. Second, County Road, where I am, does not have traffic anymore. It used to have traffic back before COVID, but now there's no traffic on our stretch. And it's similar to what Jason said. He's near Anthem, I'm near Unum. That parking lot is empty now. Traffic patterns have changed. We still have some issues on 114 with traffic and on what we call the overlap, which is where 22 and 114 converge. The backup on 114 could be addressed by having smarter stoplights that could change with traffic patterns. So right now, where you have extra capacity on County Road and you have a backup on 114, you could have a stoplight that can see that and can allow cars from 114 to go through more quickly. We also can improve those intersections on that overlap. You have an intersection right where it was a T intersection right where South Gorham is. Right now we have a new development there, so you have another road kind of that's recently been built there. But with a T intersection, you don't need to have you could turn that into a roundabout, which would improve the traffic flow. You could also have an intersection where you have one lane continuously running through and another lane that just merges in according to the stoplight. I can send you guys more information about that, what I mean. But you could put that, both T intersections, you could put that in. The last thing that I want to say, well, another great option that could be tried before we build a turnpike is to put in bike lanes, as a couple people have mentioned, could allow people to bike that want to bike that aren't able to bike through there right now. And obviously transit plays a role too. There's no transit right now between Gorham, between the towns like Standish and Buxton that would go into Portland where that people could use if they wanted to. But I also want to paint you guys a picture of what happens when you put in this type of a turnpike. You come into County Road, which you all know this beautiful stretch of County Road that goes all along Smiling Hill. You put a 1,000-foot overpass through there. You put an on-ramp, off-ramp system down there. You take my backyard. I'm not going to want to live next to a turnpike anymore. So I'm probably going to wake up morning after morning as this construction's happening with a lot of anger and rage that it's going up. And I don't know how long I'll last. I may last a few years. I may last until this turnpike's going through. And I keep waking up, and I don't want to be an angry person. So eventually I'm going to try to sell my house. And what do you think who's going to want to buy my house next to a turnpike? It's going to be a warehouse or a gas station. It's going to be a different council at that point. It's not going to be you guys. It's going to be a new council that will say, look, this is right on an interchange. We're going to put contract zoning there so that you'll have warehouse, you'll have larger development. And so I'll sell out. I'll sell to Amazon or whoever wants to put their new warehouse there. Smiling Hill now is going to not just have this massive interchange in front of them, they're now going to have warehouses popping up across from them. How long are they going to last? How long are they going to wake up every morning looking at this massive scar across their field, this 4-lane turnpike with interchange, and see the development that's popping up around them because of the people that no longer want to live there, like myself? Eventually, they're probably going to wake up one day and say, we don't want to do this anymore either. After 300 years of protecting their farm, keeping it from development, they're going to wake up one morning and say the same thing. It's not worth it anymore. Now this town's changed so much. And that's 20 or 30 years in the future. And then Smiling Hill is gone. You sell that out to developers. What are we selling our town out to with this? So I want you all to think about that really hard and know that there are options. Worst case scenario, if the other options that I mentioned that I'll send you guys by email were not to work out, all you would have to do is extend that Gorham bypass and snake it through in a way that doesn't go through Smiling Hill's field. That would be keeping in character with the community. It wouldn't be this massive turnpike. It would be a regular 2-lane highway that has a roundabout on 22 and is much easier to live with. Another thing, my greatest fear is that all this happens, you let this turnpike go through, and it's not even used because it's a toll turnpike, and most Mainers will want to avoid tolls at all costs. And it's only a 4-mile stretch. How many minutes does it save? Does it save 5 minutes? And how much is it going to cost? $4 or $5? What Mainer outside of most Mainers that you're trying to help in Buxton and Standish, they're not going to want to pay that $5. They're still going to be using the local roads. Even if it saves them 10 minutes for $4 or $5, that's still $25 an hour. Like, you don't do that. It's not a reasonable decision. So my greatest fear is you'll displace all of us. You'll change the entire North Scarborough character. It will become warehouses and gas stations. And not to harp on gas stations, but that type of development, and then it's not even going to be used. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Yep, go right up.
Mind you, the 3-minute rule, Madam Chair. I'll remind you of the 3-minute rule,
Yep.
Madam Chair. That was 10.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Abby Kang. I live on Wintergreen Drive. And please do cut me off if I go over. I'm trying my best, but my watch timer defaults to 5 minutes, so that's all I've got. I've lived in Maine for 12 years. I have a background in public policy, specifically municipal and state government, and specifically in governance issues related to land use, transportation, community planning, and conservation. I'm also a new mom, and this is my first time missing my baby daughter's bedtime since she's been alive, so I'm slightly preoccupied wondering how she's doing at home without me. But I do care very deeply about Gorham, and I am happy that I decided to be here with you all instead of with her. And I want to start by thanking all of you for the immense amount of time and effort you put into our community as volunteers on this council, and in the many ways that you invest yourself in this work. And I want to acknowledge that good governance takes a lot of that work, work that has to be done by you all as our elected officials and by the staff who take their lead from you. And I think that it's clear that the Maine Turnpike Authority's plan to build a highway spur in Gorham presents what can seem like an easy out from some of that work. It drops a quote-unquote solution in your lap that you don't have to pay for in the short term with tax dollars, and that you don't have to spend too much time on. You don't have to do your own outreach to the public, coordinate with all of the other towns in our region, pay for engineering or design, coordinate with the DOT or the many other agencies. And if you accept the MTA's solution, you don't have to ask tough questions that have complicated answers. So I think there's a sense that town and regional leaders are looking at the Turnpike Authority's proposal and saying, it's easy, it's free. But I don't believe it's free, not for the many reasons that you already know about yourselves, or that you heard about tonight, or that I know you're hearing about in your emails or in the newspaper. I think it's clear that the downside of the Maine Turnpike Authority's projects are huge and that the upsides are extremely minimal. I would say that real good governance that solves Gorham's real transportation challenges requires us to roll up our sleeves and do real work. And what I'm asking from you today is time. Time to get a lot of smart people together to do that work. And that we need in order to find a lasting, long-term, and financially successful solution for the rush hour traffic that we have in Gorham and the increasing demands that we're going to have on our transportation network as we grow. So one option that you have is to request that PACS take a look at Gorham's challenges from a truly unbiased perspective. This council could pass a resolution tonight even to ask PACS to undertake a sincere examination of alternatives to the Turnpike. A study like this would probably require about a 10% local match. I think that we can justify that expense in the face of an incredibly disruptive giant 4-lane highway.
So you're at your 3 minutes.
Sure.
Just to let you know if you want to
Sure.
finish
I'll
up.
skip to my conclusion.
Thank you.
I guess what I want to offer you today as my final thoughts are that I think it's pretty clear that Peter Mills wants this turnpike to be his legacy. And I would just ask you if you really want a highway for Gorham to be your legacy as councilors. Or do you want your legacy to be a town that welcomes new residents in places that allows them and our community to thrive in higher density developments that are closer to transit, closer and walkable to the goods and services in our beautiful village center that we all are so lucky to have? Do you want your time on the council to mean a village core that can grow and thrive with new local businesses, safe streets for kids to get to school, and rural open space on the outskirts of town that provides our people places to grow food, wander in the woods, and get our feet wet? I hope you'll pursue the latter, the kind of growth that is best for Gorham, best for your constituents that live here now, and best for those that we want to welcome here in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? All right, we will move on to councilor communications. And I'm going to start on my right with Councilor Siegel.
All right. Thank you very much, Chair. Just want to let the public know that there was an ordinance committee meeting on March 26th. Myself, Councillor Sims, and Councillor Gagnon were there, and we discussed updating our road standards, specifically looking at private ways. We looked at the possibility of new school impact fees and learned from the legal counsel what is and isn't possible. And then we also talked about adopting a complete streets policy in Gorham, so that we're looking at pedestrians, bicyclists, and automobile transportation, as well as public transit, so that our streets are, well, keeping in mind all modes of transportation. We're going to continue to be discussing these at the subsequent ordinance committee meeting, which is going to be April 23rd at 10 a.m. In conference room A here in the municipal center. The public is totally welcome, and I love at any time members of the public to arrive. That is all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor LeBoy?
Yeah, I just want to remind the public that the Gorham Village Alliance, in conjunction with the Gorham Conservation Commission, will be having their annual Gorham Cleans Up event. And this will be on Sunday, April 21st from 8:30 to 11 o'clock. And each year they pick a different part of the town to clean up the sides of the roads. Public Works does a really good job of helping us out with that. It's a real successful event, helps clean up our town. If you're interested in participating, you can head over to Gorham Conservation Commission's Facebook page to get more information or to sign up.
Thank you. Councilor Sims?
Thank you, Chair. I received an email request from a resident this month. She's an active member of our community. She wanted to share some information about her work. She's a volunteer, a therapy animal volunteer, and she asked me to mention that April 30th is National Therapy Animal Day. And if you'd like more information, you can go to nationaltherapyanimalday.org. And I also just wanted to remind Gorham business owners that there's a statewide grant program that's accepting applications through next Thursday, April the 11th at 5 p.m. That's the Domestic Trade Program. It's administered with Greater Portland Council of Governments and Department of Economic and Community Development. And thank you to town staff for getting a link to that program up on the town website.
Thank you. Councilor Pratt?
So we're locking up at a quarterly date for our Jetport Noise Abatement Committee meeting. I know everybody's sitting on pins and needles for that date, so I'll let you know as soon as it is available. And then second, I'm working with someone on getting a blood drive going in Gorham, just so everyone knows. So hopefully that'll happen in September sometime. I'll have more to come on that. And I just reached my 3-gallon milestone, so I'm going to say the same thing I say every meeting. Please donate blood if you're able and willing, because it could save somebody's life. And that's all I have.
And if you build it, they will come.
Exactly,
That's
right?
great.
Yeah.
I've got a short report this month, so surprise everybody. But I'm so excited to be able to announce that the Gorham and Falmouth High School first robotics team was the winner of the 2024 UNH District Competition. FIRST is an acronym, the F-I-R-S-T. It's an acronym. It stands for Inspiration and Recognition in Science and Technology. What's extraordinary about this particular win is that this team has been competing in FIRST robotics since 1996. This team never won until this year. So I'm excited about that. But in addition to that, wait, there's more. Isn't that how that ad goes? But wait, there's more. At the end of the competition, the team received the prestigious Impact Award, and that honors a team that best represents a model for other teams and best embodies the mission of FIRST. This coming weekend now, they'll compete against other Impact winners for a chance to represent New England at the first World Championship. It's going to be in Houston. So good luck to team number 174, and thank you to the folks who support this wonderful program. They're really smart kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gagnon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the CIP Economic Development Committee met We went over some pretty good discussions regarding economic development. We look forward to our presentations from the town and the school next month, or I guess this month now, in regards to our public works, Narragansett and middle school master plans, so that they'll represent if we get a school where I could potentially go, as well as I think moving the tennis courts from the high school potentially and where those may end up. And hopefully there's some options on that as well. Our next meeting will also have the Economic Development Director attend so that we can have some discussions in regards to programming and other things that may or may not improve our chances for economic development in town. Just a reminder, I don't know if anyone's heard about a snowstorm that's coming, but I would recommend being prepared, as Public Works can only move so much snow. And I remember when I was chair, we got 33 inches of snow in one storm, and we were basically paralyzed. So get your milk and bread and everything else that you need. And lastly, I attended the Turnpike Spur meeting. I did not get up and speak, even though others on the council did. I'd just like to be on the record and say that, you know, the Turnpike Spur has many benefits to the town of Gorham. I see the need to continue supporting the need for a Turnpike Spur for Gorham. That's not an endorsement of the path that they have taken, but the economic ramifications of what has taken many years of planning. I should know I went to the meeting 13 years ago for that meeting. Mike Finney's in the audience, he remembers. These things don't come, and unfortunately, Peter Mills questioned after a councillor spoke at the meeting whether Gorham still wanted it. And I had to say the councillor didn't represent the town of Gorham or the council as a whole. And, you know, I would have you reach out to the town manager. And these things, if they are delayed or stopped, take forever to start up again. So, you know, I ask that the council and the councillors be careful of what you say publicly. This is something that will have ramifications for the town of Gorham for years to come, particularly since we've changed some of our design standards to allow for higher density projects that will onboard or bring hundreds of new houses over the course of however they can, I guess, get them through. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to drive? Each house is going to have a minimum of 2.5 cars on average, right? So either we look at alternatives and how we're going to build out our infrastructure, which is continuing to support and saying, yes, we need something that's going to move traffic, or we start to look at building moratoriums and stopping construction, because there can't be construction and no new way of getting people to where they're going. It can't be done. And I heard enough people say, well, stop the construction and stop or have more density, and it's contradictory. So I think the council needs to have a workshop or something to start looking at this and moving it forward. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything, so we'll move on to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep it short and sweet. The municipal budget, so the town side of the budget, should be out to the council at the end of the week. Of course, we're throwing a small blizzard in the middle of that, but we've got it mostly fine-tuned, and we're working on preparing that. The department managers have spent the better part of a month really digging into it. So we're going to bring a responsible and efficient budget to the council that hopefully will address the needs of Gorham moving forward. I also wanted to touch base on the snow. a meeting doesn't go by without a councilor mentioning something on my list. But it is going to snow. As Councilor Gagnon's mentioned, please be prepared. Public Works will do a phenomenal job, as they always do. What is the challenge with spring snowstorms is they can't be treated like a snowstorm in the middle of the wintertime. The ground is soft. Your road may or may not be 100% plowed. They're trying not to tear up people's yards, destroy things. So please bear with us. We'll get through it. It'll be warm, 60 degrees next week, but it'll just be unpleasant for the next couple days. So thank you to Public Works ahead of time. They always do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll have the Chair Perkins from the school committee.
Hi, everyone. I believe you all have a copy of my report, but I just wanted to highlight a couple things going on in the school district. First off, thank you to GoCat and our 3 community champions who've helped us create our Understanding Public Schools video series. The 3 videos so far in the series include School Funding with Sean Moody, School Governance with Kathy Gerard, and Understanding the Challenges of 21st Century Schools with Dr. Jackie Edmondson. Our 4th video will be coming out soon with Dr. Andrew Dolliff that will focus on understanding the future of public schools. These are available on the GoCat website as well as the school district's website. Secondly, we have selected an architectural firm for our application for capital funding from the state for schools. After considering 5 architectural firms in our RFQ process, we selected LaValle Bressinger Architects. They're currently working on RSU 14 Middle School, and they completed the Sanford High School project for reference. We'll be working with them to put together 3 capital applications to the main DOE, one for Village Elementary, one for Narragansett Elementary, and one for Gorham High School. These applications are due August 30th of this year, and typically it takes a little over a year for the state to review all applications, determine scores for each, and rank them. So that will be an ongoing process. More to hear about that. Moving on to budget, we had our 4th and final FY25 budget workshop meeting last Monday. The focus of this meeting was on the revenue side of the budget. It was agreed that we would utilize $600,000 in fund balance to offset taxpayer expense. We left the meeting with the following numbers in our draft proposal for the FY25 school budget. Operating cost increases of 6.9% and an overall expenditure increase of 7.7%. This includes capital projects, debt service, and adult education as well. We are looking forward to our budget workshop meeting with the town council scheduled for April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. in conference room A. A reminder about the upcoming schedule change. We've moved our scheduled early release day on April 3rd to the new date of April 8th on the day of the eclipse. This is primarily for safety reasons, since the eclipse is taking place right during elementary school dismissal and transportation time, and we cannot guarantee that those kiddos are not going to want to take a look at what's going on without the appropriate safety gear. We recently had an Eat and Learn on March 12th. Our Anti-Racism and Equity Committee hosted the Eat and Learn event for the community. The theme of the evening was on advocacy and what it feels like to need an advocate and what it feels like to be an advocate. Student artwork was displayed, and 75 community members were invited to do a gallery walk and speak with many of the artists. We hope to make this an annual event. And finally, tonight is the Gorham School's all-band night at Gorham High School. I don't know if you can hear them if you stop and listen. The all-chorus night will take place on April 9th, also at the high school at 6 o'clock, and those shows are open to the public. That's all I have.
Any questions for Chair Perkins? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 1 on item 2023-3-11. Public hearing to hear comments on a proposal to amend the shoreland zoning map to increase the stream protection sub-district to 100 feet for streams that have native brook trout as identified on the amended shoreland map. Administrator Sponson.
Public hearing number 1 is now open. If anyone would like to speak on this, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed.
Proposed Order 2450, ordered that the Town Council amend the shoreland zoning map to increase the stream protection sub-district to 100 feet for streams that have native brook trout as identified on the amended shoreland map.
Is there a motion on the item?
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Lavoy.
I'll second it.
All right, second by Councilor Wilder-Cross. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very simply put, this increases the buffer for these protected areas from 75 feet to 100 feet, as seen on the council zoning map that you would approve. This would go into effect 30 days from now, if approved tonight, and there's a whole list of and sections of zoning and state regulations that apply to these areas. So it would make it much more difficult to do work or build structures or modify those areas within that protected area.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor? 7 yeas.
Item 2024, 4-1, action to consider appointing election workers for a 2-year term, 2024 to 2026, administrator sponsored. Proposed order 2451, order that the town council appoint the following people as election workers per Title 21A MRSA, Section 503, with terms to expire April 1st of 2026. Democrat workers, Peter Allen.
Madam Chair, due to the length of the order, I look to waive the reading.
Okay. Is there a second for waive the reading? Councilor Sims? All right, all those in favor of waiving the reading? 7 yeas. Is there a
I don't
motion?
think we have to say 1,000 names.
Is there a motion for the item? So moved. Moved by Councilor Wilder-Cross. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Lavoy. It's also been brought to my attention after the agenda was printed that there needs to be amended for the Republican workers list. There needs to be 5 names added, and the town clerk does have those names, and if you just read them, I guess, for the record.
Yep, Judith Falk, Alan Livingston, Catherine Olson, Deb Strout, and Laura Lossie.
All right, so is there a second for the amendment? Second by Councilor Gagnon. All those in favor of adding the 5 names? 7 yeas. And any discussion on the item? All right. And
I just want to say thank you to everybody volunteering for this. It's kind of a thankless job, and thank you very much. So.
And we just added 5 more people.
Right, yeah.
All right, so all those in favor as the item is amended? All right, 7 yeas.
Item 2023-9-16, action to consider amending the Land Use and Development Code with regards to private way standards, ordinance committee sponsored. Proposed order 24-52, order that the town council forwards to the planning board for recommendation and public hearing amendments to the Land Use and Development Code as follows. Standards for access management. 5, private ways shall be designed to meet the following requirements. A, private ways shall meet the standards presented in tables 2 and 3 and the typical cross-section depicted in figure 9 and 10 unless otherwise agreed to and permitted in writing by the planning board. The planning board may require design modifications if it finds special provisions to be necessary to protect the public health and safety as a result of a specific development proposal. Standards and dimensions contained herein shall be considered as minimum, and modifications may be recommended to the planning board by the town engineer to meet specific site conditions. And B, private ways will not cause congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to use of the highways or public roads existing or proposed on or off the site.
All right, is there a motion? Motion by Councilor Siegel. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Pratt. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Ordinance Committee took this, or started work on this last year, and essentially what it does is it allows for the town engineer and the planning board to bring private way standards more in line with public way standards, which sometimes are more strict. It also allows the ability for the town engineer to recommend basically common sense changes to a site that don't create a public safety issue, but may or may not align exactly with the Land Use and Development Code. So it allows a little bit more flexibility as recommended by a professional engineer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? 1 yea, Gagnon.
Item 2024, 4-2, action to consider instructing the Finance Committee to provide recommendations on new sewer rates. Councilor Phillips sponsored. Proposed Order 2453, ordered that the Town Council instructs the Finance Committee to review sewer rates and provide recommendations to the Town Council for adoption.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Pratt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Wilder Cross. I'm going to turn this over to the town manager, even though he made me sponsor it.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I will point out that the chair did not want to increase sewer rates, but I told her that we may have to. So we set the sewer rates and we collect the funds based on the commitment that the Portland Water District gives us. So about 3.5, 4 years ago, the council looked at this. Prior to that date, the council had not had to or did not have to up that fee for a long time prior to that date. But looking at the numbers, looking at our revenue versus the assessments, we'll be in the negative. Not that we'll run out of money, there's a contingency, but the council will have to examine sewer rates. So this essentially sends it to the Finance Committee, where we will receive a recommendation from the Water District, and they can look at the fee structure and provide that back to the council like we did 3 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? 7 yeas.
Item 2024-4-3, action to consider adopting Hessen Drive as a public way, Councilor Gagnon sponsored. Proposed Order 2454, ordered that the Town Council adopts Hessian Way as a public way, and be it further ordered that Hessian Drive is designated a rural collector roadway.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilor Gagnon. Is there a second? All right, seeing none, that means the motion fails. And just for the public's explanation, that means that the item has failed and we can't bring it back for a significant amount of time, at least a year. Is that correct, Town Manager? Or
I can get into the legalese of it, but essentially for this evening, without a second, the council can't take action on it.
yes, correct. Thank you.
Item 2024-4-4, action to consider dissolving a contract zone on map 6, lot 43-1, and map 6, lot 19-1 at the request of the property owner, Councilor Phillips sponsored. Proposed Order 2455, ordered that the Town Council forwards to the Planning Board for public hearing and review, dissolving the contract zone on map 6, lot 43-1, and map 6, lot 19-1, owned by Barry King in South Gorham, and be it further ordered that administrative costs be paid prior to work commencing on removal of the contract zone.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilor Pratt. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilor Lavoy. I was looking that way, sorry.
It's okay.
So this item was brought, I received an email, I think maybe the rest of the council got an email, that this landowner was asking to remove the contract zone on his property. And so it's up here for discussion. Go ahead.
As one of the original people that voted for said contract zone, I'm opposed to amending it unless we're going to be compensated for the costs associated by the town originally to put the contract zone together. Right, so that took town staff and time. This was hot and heavy back in the day where we had several from that area. But I don't want to set a precedent that people are just moving these things in and out of contracts. That's not what these are for. These are for development. You have a specific purpose. There was a cost associated with it. So unless there is a fee that is similar to what it was to onboard or some other compensatory amount, I'm not agreeable to this.
That's also why I included the bottom piece about the cost being paid. And I can ask the town manager, but there is a fee to obviously do the contract zone, and then there is a fee to dissolve a contract zone or to do any amendment. Even an amendment, there's a fee, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't believe when the contract zone and a lot of the contract zones in South Gorham were originally created, the towns assessed a fee. Several years ago, we started assessing a fee. Don't quote me on this. I think it's about $3,000, but I could be wrong. I'd have to look it up. But it covers our staff and legal time, the public hearings, even to dissolve a contract zone that has to go to the planning board, have a public hearing, come back here, have a public hearing, and go through that legal process. So There is a fee. It would have to be paid prior to going through that process. And I think the only thing that has changed in South Gorham is a lot of the zoning has finally been implemented. So we may see more of these requests coming in, but we do have a mechanism to capture our costs and time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yep, go ahead. Councillor Sims.
And just to clarify, in this case, we are collecting those fees and we're essentially being compensated for the time?
Yes, we wouldn't complete the process if we weren't. I mean, there's legal, staff time, all that stuff.
Madam Chair, how much are we looking at to unwind it, I guess?
The fee to amend it or undo it, or is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm looking for is, if it's only like a couple $100, I'm not.
I'd have to confirm this, but I believe the fee is like $3,000. It's substantial enough to cover our legal expenses as well as our public hearing and staff time.
Councillor Siegel.
Thank you. Can it be clear why are they seeking to dissolve the contract zone at this time?
So I think that the contract zone that they were listed under had specific things, much like all the contract zones in South Gorham had listed out specific things that could be done. And now that we've changed the zoning, the person wants to, I believe it's like, there's some sort of sales, whether it's like trailer sales or something like that. I'm not really sure exactly what they want to do, but what they want to do there is more in line with what we rezoned it as versus the contract zone. So it just actually makes more sense to just follow the zone that's up there. So it won't be doing anything, out of the ordinary anymore, so.
Did they initially get the contract zone because our zoning wasn't well developed enough at the time?
Yeah, this was a long time ago. Like Councillor Gagnon said, this was actually prior to even, it was one of the first of many contract zones up in that area. And it was all to capitalize on the fact that it could be a commercial corridor and things like that. So yeah, our zoning had not caught up with what they wanted to do up there, so.
And then through to the town manager, just what zone will this be in once the contract zone is lifted after you answer the first question that I know?
I will confirm this for you, but I believe the South Gorham Commercial Crossroads District, I may have messed up the language there, but the southernmost new commercial district that the council implemented last year.
Along Route 222,
Make it easier for businesses to be there because it's the commercial district. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Pratt.
I guess just real quick, I hope anyone watching at home that thinks a contract zone is a good way to do things is watching this, because everybody gets mad at me when I don't vote for contract zones. And this is why, is because it would, for me, if it's good for one person, it's good for everyone, and we should just amend the zoning if it's good for that area, not just keep throwing contract zones. And South Gorham is a key example of this. Is we've done so many contract zones out here that now they're actually getting reversed by zoning that makes sense. So please pay attention to this when you think that a contract zone is the way to go, because once in a great while it is, but most of the time it's not, honestly. So just please pay attention.
Yeah, so. I can verify the fact that when I was very first on council, that there was meetings and meetings with contract zones, and then we all said, well, why don't we just rezone South Gorham? It got brought up, but everybody voted no. So I don't know what happened. So, but go ahead, Councillor Gagnon.
So I had to refresh my memory, Madam Chair. Thank you. So there's two things here. One, if I remember correctly, all the adjoining lots next to this one also got contract zones so that it would all be uniform. So taking this one out now creates, I guess it's on a corner, right? And non-uniform area. But two, in looking it up for the fee was deferred. There is a fee for having this contract zone. It was deferred until site plan was done and went through planning. It never got there, right? So we're gonna lose that fee. I don't see another fee in here for terminating said agreement except for the end that says very specifically that upon coming here, we determine what happens if anything is not done correctly or I guess, dissolution. So I want it firm that we're gonna get our $3,500, right? Also, I guess for here as well, there's fees for extending sewer. That's part of this as well. I'm not overly complicating things, but these things were created to extend and develop the area. And now, I guess we have one out of a row, I think it's on both sides of the street, that's, I guess, not living up to it. And so I guess I want my money, or I'm a no. So we can vote as a council to get our money, or $3,500 at a minimum. I said, or, you know, you can vote not to, and he gets off scot-free. But these things took a lot of time, and I think I've said when I first got on the council, I think these things can't be taken lightly and chew up staff time and town resources, much to like Councilor Pratt said, and then nothing comes of it. That's not economic development.
I just want to clear up for people who are listening, we're not voting yes or no on this, right? We're voting on sending it to the planning board, is that true?
That would be the process to do this. So it's not that, I mean, if we were sending this to the planning board, our recommendation to the planning board is that we want this dissolved.
Okay.
So there's no way to send it to the planning board and then say, when it comes back to us, say no. I think that would be kind of an unfair.
I just, I think we needed to clear up that little gray area. Thanks.
Well, planning, Madam Chair. Planning board with direction, right? So we've sent direction to the planning board a couple times and they've just ignored it. But if they say, sure, you know, we're okay with dissolving it, I want to make sure they're saying, no, we're okay with dissolving it with getting refunded our money, is what I'm saying.
So just a question here. Has anything happened with this particular parcel? So,
Different since it became a contract zone, no.
okay, so that to Councilor Gagnon's, we haven't collected anything.
And it was deferred.
Just for further clarity, so when do the fees get collected for this? 'Cause this is the
Before
issue.
any work commences on this. So that's what that part of the order says, that the administrative costs be paid prior to work commencing on the removal of the contract zone.
I see. So if we vote yes tonight, the fee will be collected, but from the landowner, and they will move forward with the process of dissolving it. Is that accurate?
Yes, if, we're not going to commence any staff time, costs of public hearings, stuff like that, unless the fee is paid.
Right.
All right, any other questions? Councilor Seaver, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair. I have two questions here. This first one might be for the town manager. The impact fee of $10,000 per lot for the future extension of public sewer. If we dissolve this contract zone, is there an existing similar impact fee that they will have to pay with that?
To my knowledge, no. The thing that if the council wishes to explore recouping costs and/or looking at provisions of dissolving the contract zone, it's a contract. So to terminate a contract, both parties need to agree to it. It needs to go through our public process. So you could put stipulations in there and/or ask the planning board to analyze some of those components. It doesn't mean that you just have to dissolve something as is. I mean, it's a negotiation, obviously. So I think anything could happen.
Okay. And the other point I'd like to make that we're discussing about this application fee and staff time is that this is the $3,500 is for the application fee and staff time in creating it and all of the public hearings and all of those steps that need to happen. If we are dissolving it and it has to go through a very similar process, that is essentially what I think is another $3,500. If the rest of the council understands what I'm saying, so I would honestly be okay with us requesting 7,000, aka double the.
So at the time that the contract zones were drawn up in South Gorham, the town council did not have a fee associated with contract zones.
Yeah.
So that's the only, this is from, am I correct, I guess? So we implemented that after the fact. So I think that this, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and maybe we should take a look at something, because if people start dissolving their contract zones, but I don't think we can go back and collect a fee for.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just not trying to muddy the waters. I think the council could make any requests you want, but part of the reason a fee was started to be assessed was there was a lot of work that went into these, and sometimes they didn't get across the finish line. Now the town's out $3,500 of staff time, legal costs, all those things. So the council could put any conditions you want on it. I don't know how many of these you will receive. It's going to be, is the zoning better now for that property owner, and can they do more with it than the contract zone? Then that'll be the question moving forward in this area.
One other clarifying question, just based on the conversation here. Would it make any sense to have the Finance Committee look at the fee that's being charged, or would that just be a necessary step? I'm just offering a solution to a concern that's being raised.
Thank you. I think the council could look at that moving forward. It wasn't that long ago that we assessed that fee, so it maybe needs to be updated a little bit, but it should be in the ballpark of our expenses.
Madam Chair, I will say I'm in favor of us making this, doing this dissolving, especially since it's in the commercial area. If it were in more residential contract zone, I'd probably be against it, but in helping foster businesses and welcome them to Gorham, that's why I'm okay with this. If someone wanted to introduce an amendment looking for us to seek any kind of fee regarding this, I'd also be for that as well, but okay if we want to let that slide. I just want to let the council know what I'm thinking.
Am I right that is included in this?
We're going to collect a fee, yep, to do the dissolving.
Does it need an amendment?
No. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? 7 yeas.
Item 2024, 4-5, action to consider instructing the Finance Committee to review programs available to assist working farms. Councillor Phillips sponsored. Proposed Order 2456, order that the Town Council forwards to the Finance Committee for review and recommendation the feasibility of implementing available financial programs available to help Gorham's working farms.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councillor Lavoie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Siegel. So this just came up, obviously, from our last workshop. I noticed that they're reading through the handbook that Maine Farmland Trust provided. There were numerous programs, things that municipalities could implement in terms of incentivizing people farming their land and things like that. There was a tax relief program. I'm not necessarily saying that program, but I thought to send this to finance only because it makes more sense to me that finance looks at us and sees if there's any sort of economic impact in terms of if we did want to do a tax relief program for farmland, then we'd have to see that, how that would impact us. So I just wanted to start the conversation there with the Finance Committee. So if anybody else thinks it should go somewhere else, that's fine too. I just thought where it involved money. So any questions, comments?
It's good.
It's great.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that came up in the workshop that I think we should look at, I just want to let the Finance Committee know, came up the 5 contiguous acres, and I'm curious how many farms in Gorham are actually smaller than that, and I just want to kind of make that known if we have a small farm program as well as you're looking at that. And then I also want to say, as Chair of the Ordinance Committee, I'm totally good with other committees getting things like this.
Time to share the wealth, huh?
Yeah.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor? 7 yeas.
Item 2024, 4-6, action to consider adopting a smart growth policy, Councilor Sims sponsored. Proposed Order 2457, order that the Town Council forwards to the Ordinance Committee to create with staff a smart growth policy to provide guidance on the modification and adoption of ordinances promoting smart growth for the town of Gorham wherever possible.
Is there a motion?
Can I motion?
Yeah. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Segal. Go ahead.
Thank you. My first motion here, or my first agenda item, so I might have gotten a little overzealous, but I typed out a little comment. Try to keep it to less than 3 minutes. See how I do. So the reason I'm proposing this motion is to directly address a concern raised by many Gorham residents, myself included, that our property taxes have been climbing at an alarming rate in recent years. We all want a simple fix to this problem, and without a simple fix readily available, we tend to seek out scapegoats to take the blame. As I've begun to learn over my first few months here on the council, there's no simple fix here. Gorham's problems are complex, and the solutions will require time, careful work, and committed efforts to ensure that our residents provide meaningful input on the path forward. The good news is Gorham's problems are fixable, and indeed many communities across our state and our country offer examples of solutions that we could learn from to address our challenges. So what is smart growth? Smart growth is a set of proven policy solutions. The proposed action before us today to develop our own smart growth policy, it presents an opportunity for Gorham to define for ourselves what we want those smart growth outcomes to look like. And when I joined the council, my goal was to find a way to help us better manage our budget challenges. And I've been learning solutions that are working for other towns facing similar challenges. For me, smart growth is based on a simple principle. Any organization, whether it's a municipality, a business, or otherwise, to achieve long-term viability, you got to bring in more revenue than you spend. And whatever solution you're producing, if you're a business, you got to find ways to maximize your profit margin, to make the most productive use of the limited resources that you have, to ensure your long-term sustainability. And Gorham must do the same. And whether we choose to accept it or not, the housing market forces are going to continue pushing more and more development pressure onto our existing communities. This will continue to threaten our rapidly disappearing open spaces, but a smart growth policy for Gorham can turn these challenges into opportunities. A smart growth policy can incentivize developers to help us build more productive neighborhoods that enhance our sense of community and place, improve our health and the quality of our lives, all while bringing in more property tax revenue per unit of land. Most critically, that means bringing in more property tax revenue than it's costing our town to service those properties. And that net positive development is how we can effectively start to improve on our budget challenges in the long term. So I urge my fellow councilors to join me in supporting this motion, to empower our town staff and ordinance committee to develop a smart growth policy so that we can foster a more fiscally sustainable Gorham and build a strong future for our town. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, I got something.
Okay.
That was great. Thank you. Seriously, that was phenomenal. Because my first question to you was going to be, what's the difference between this and the comp plan?
Yeah.
You nailed it. There's big differences there. So
Yes.
thank you. No, and again, my first year, everything was about smart growth, right? But
You do.
we got to do something, and I like the way you're trying to point that. So you definitely have my support on this one.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor? 7 yeas. Oh, is that it? Wait, what? All right, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, everybody, all right. Motion by Councilor Gannon, second by Councilor Pratt. All those in favor? 7 yeas. Thank you, everybody. Now we just have to